Power doesn't fall into your lap. It doesn't arrive with your birth certificate, and it isn't something you can beg, borrow, or fake your way into for long. If you've ever wondered why some people walk into a room and everything shifts, the tone, the pace, the tension, it's not magic, it's mastery. And Niccolo Machiavelli knew exactly how that kind of presence is built. Not by chance, not by natural charm, but through ruthless, precise, repeatable habits. Habits that separate those who are noticed from those who are obeyed. And once you install them, your life begins to shift quietly, forcefully, and without apology. Machiavelli didn't talk about vision boards or waking up at 5 a.m. He didn't care about hustle culture or 10-step routines. He studied rulers, not influencers. Kings, not content creators. And what he found was something most people never see. Power is psychological architecture. You don't chase it, you build it. So we start with the foundation. Habit 1, control your face before you try to control the room. That means no twitchy eyes, no head tilts, no micro expressions that say, please like me. Your face is a broadcast. People decode it before you even speak. If they can read you, they can reach you. And if they can reach you, they can bend you. Machiavelli didn't write it that way, but that's what he meant. You train your face like a mask. Praise doesn't soften you. Insults don't crack you. Chaos doesn't show up on your brow. You let silence speak louder than shock. There's something unnerving about someone who doesn't flinch. It makes people wonder what you're hiding, and that uncertainty becomes a form of leverage. Habit 2. Think in terms of leverage, not effort. Most people live in effort mode. Grinding, pushing, trying harder. But the powerful think, like engineers, not employees. They don't ask, how much work can I do today? They ask, what's the smallest move that makes the biggest shift? Think pressure points. Strategic timing. Power isn't about lifting heavier, it's about finding the hinge that makes the door swing. Instead of convincing everyone, make one move that makes others do the convincing for you. Don't chase every opportunity. Design positioning so that the opportunities chase you. Don't fight every battle. Reframe the battlefield. A man who thinks like this doesn't get burned out. He builds systems that work even when he sleeps. Habit 3, say less, look more, control most. In a world addicted to over-explaining, the quiet man is an anomaly, and anomalies attract attention. Machiavelli warned that words are leaky. Every sentence is a window into your mind, and if you're not careful, someone will climb in. So here's what powerful people do. They cut their language in half. They strip it down to essence. No, I just wanted to say. No, I think maybe. Just clear, sharp sentences that don't seek approval. But more than that, they let silence do the heavy lifting. Silence builds tension. It gives weight to your words. It forces others to fill the gap, and in doing so, they reveal themselves. While others spill, you gather. While they project, you scan. You watch tone, timing, eyes that flicker. You observe like a hawk, and when you speak, it lands like a stone dropped in still water. Habit 4. Be feared for what you might do, not what you've already done. This is one of Machiavelli's darkest and most misunderstood insights. Reputation isn't built on your resume. It's built on the shadows, the rumors, the question marks. People don't fear your achievements. They fear what you've chosen not to show. That's why you never display all your skills. You don't correct every rumor. You don't explain every silence. Strategic unpredictability is a weapon. When people can't predict you, they tread lightly. They wonder, what if he's holding back that tension? That's power. You don't have to raise your voice. You don't even have to act. Sometimes the most commanding presence in the room is the one that hasn't spoken, but everyone is watching. Habit 5. Make yourself hard to reach and impossible to replace. Machiavelli advised that a prince should appear accessible, but never truly be so. Why? Because proximity breeds familiarity, and familiarity is the beginning of contempt. The more people have access to you, the more they devalue you. So the powerful do two things: they make themselves scarce, and they become irreplaceable. They don't show up to every meeting. They don't reply to every message. They don't linger in spaces where anyone can tug at their sleeve. And crucially, they develop one skill, one insight, one function that no one else can replicate. When you're hard to find and even harder to replace, people stop testing you and start protecting their access to you. You become less like a person and more like a position, like a vault key, like a switch no one else knows how to use. Habit 6. Keep allies close, but always maintain the upper hand. Power is not a solo sport, but it also isn't a friendship circle. Machiavelli was clear on this: alliances are useful, not sacred. That means you build connections based on mutual advantage, not emotion. You can laugh with someone and still be watching them. You can praise them in public and prepare for their exit in private. You don't lean too hard. You don't reveal too much. You don't let attachment become leverage. The moment your connection turns into dependency, you've already lost. So give just enough to make them feel close, but never enough to touch your center. This doesn't make you cold. It makes you in control. At this point, you're no longer just adjusting your behavior. You're rewriting your operating system. The habits you're building aren't just tools, they're transformation protocols. The posture is changing, the tone is shifting, and if you've been paying attention, you're already starting to move differently, speak differently, command differently. But Machiavelli didn't stop at presence. He built frameworks for permanence. And in the next phase, you'll learn how to shift from temporary power to unshakable identity, where it's no longer something you do, it's who you are. Habit 7. Anticipate betrayal before loyalty is broken. This one is cold, and for good reason. Machiavelli believed betrayal wasn't a possibility, it was a certainty. Not because people are evil, but because circumstances change. Today's loyal friend becomes tomorrow's competitor. Today's supporter may retreat when things turn. The powerful don't wait to be blindsided. They develop a quiet, calculated vigilance. You notice the delay in response, the shift in tone, the friend who starts forming side connections without looping you in. The favor you gave that's returned with excuses. You don't call it out, you log it. And behind the scenes, you prepare the counter. Whether that's building an alternative alliance, protecting resources, or slowly withdrawing, you don't react emotionally. You move like someone who expected this, because you did. The one who prepares before the knife is drawn doesn't bleed. Habit 8. React slowly, strike decisively. Most people react on instinct, quick to anger, quick to defend, quick to justify. That's weakness disguised as passion. Machiavelli would say you're handing over control every time you do that. The powerful have trained two patterns: they pause and then strike. If someone insults them, they don't flinch. If they're accused, they let silence hang in the air. There's no flurry of texts, no back and forth, no emotional storm. Just one response, measured, final, irreversible. Not dramatic, just surgical. You create more fear through stillness than most do through noise. Because people don't know what's coming or when. Only that when you do respond, it ends something. That's how power becomes presence. It's not in what you say, it's in what people feel before you even speak. Habit 9. Control the frame even in silence. This one is especially subtle. It's not about dominating the room through volume or charisma. It's about controlling the meaning of what's happening. Framing is invisible power. If you define the terms of the conversation, you don't need to win the debate. The outcome was already shaped. The powerful walk into rooms with context already decided. They don't argue over what's right. They steer things toward what's effective. They say things like, let's focus on what actually changes the result. And even when they're not speaking, their posture, pace and gaze reframe the room. Slower movement, stillness in chaos, a silence that dares someone to interrupt. This isn't passivity, it's psychological positioning. The way you tilt your head, the way you make eye contact, even those become statements. You don't raise your voice. You raise the bar for how people interpret what's happening. Habit 10. Operate in shadows, reward in public. This one is Machiavellian to the core. What people see from you should build loyalty. What they don't see should build power. Your punishments, silent. No tantrums, no online call-outs. Just absence. Just resources redirected. Just alliances that quietly shift. Your rewards, loud. Public praise. Visible thanks. A well-timed compliment in front of others. Why? Because humans crave recognition. When you give it, people want your favor. When you withhold it, they crave it even more. You're not doing this to be liked. You're doing it to build hierarchy. And hierarchy, when it's subtle, is hard to resist. People don't even realize they've started working to earn your approval. They just feel drawn to it like warmth from a fire they weren't invited to sit near. Habit 11. Rebuild yourself constantly, but quietly. This is the difference between temporary strength and permanent power. The weak stagnate as soon as they're praised. They get good, then they get comfortable. But the powerful, they evolve in silence. No announcements, no declarations, no Instagram captions. You notice a flaw, you correct it in private. You sharpen a skill, you don't showcase it until it's undeniable. You shift your mindset and no one hears about it until they feel the results. That's how you become a moving target. One version of you enters a room, but the next time they see you, it's a colder, sharper, more precise version. The room doesn't recognize you, and that's intentional. Because when people can't predict you, they can't contain you. You're not leveling up, you're becoming unrecognizable. And here's where most stop. They absorb the information, they nod along, they highlight the notes, but nothing changes. Because transformation requires systemization. You don't just build habits, you embed them into the bones of your day. Machiavelli understood this. He said a prince must prepare for war during peace. Why? Because by the time chaos starts, it's too late to train. The same applies here. You don't wait until someone crosses the line to rehearse composure. You don't wait until you're challenged to act powerful. You program power into your reflexes. That's why the next phase is about scripting your default responses. Someone disrespects you. Your reply isn't improvised, it's precise. It's silence, or one short sentence. That's not acceptable. I'll call you later. You don't argue. You don't chase. You maintain the frame. You build rituals that reset your dominance, morning stillness, evening review, moments of isolation where you check your internal compass. And most importantly, you create small discomforts on purpose. Cold showers, awkward pauses. Saying no without softening the blow. These are drills. You're rehearsing the internal muscle memory of power. So when the real moment comes, your nervous system already knows what to do. Next, you maintain a mental war room. Yes, like a private intelligence agency. You observe not just others, but yourself. Daily. Where did you fold? Where did you chase? What conversations shifted your energy, and why did you hold the frame, or did someone else hijack it? Every week you audit the behaviors and people that erode your edge. Every month you review your reputation. What do people whisper when you leave the room? What labels are being attached to you without your permission? The powerful don't fight rumors, they engineer myth. You reinforce mystery and eliminate noise. Then you go further. You make your time a fortress. Access to you becomes a privilege, not a right. Every meeting has a cost. Every message is filtered through your mission. You don't reply unless it moves the outcome. You don't explain unless there's something strategic to gain. This isn't coldness, it's containment. And the more you contain your time, the more others begin to value it. You're no longer the person others casually reach. You become the figure they prepare to approach. And this leads to one of the most subtle and dangerous habits of all. Habit 12. Master psychological distance. Not detachment, not indifference, but distance with intention. The weak either drown in emotion or deny it altogether. The powerful do something different. They feel everything, but they use nothing until it's time. That's the key. Machiavelli didn't say to suppress your emotions. He said to never show that you are ruled by them. So you train for this. You feel the sting of an insult, and you show no change. You experience the cold shift of betrayal, and you take no immediate action. You observe. You wait. You strike only when it damages them, not just when it relieves you. You don't weaponize emotion impulsively. You distill it, store it, and deliver it like a sharpened blade. The dangerous man is not the one who feels nothing. It's the one who feels everything and still does what needs to be done. Habit 13. Maintain a reputation you can hide behind. You don't need to act powerful every moment if your name does it for you. Machiavelli knew the long game of power was reputation, not popularity, not visibility, but whispers. A well-crafted reputation becomes armor. You only need to make one example, one refusal, one boundary, one consequence, and then let the echo travel. People begin to edit themselves before they speak to you. They step lighter. They recall what happened the last time someone crossed you. That's influence without effort. Because now it's not about what you'll say, it's about what they fear you might do. You're not arguing, you're not defending, you're simply living in the atmosphere you've engineered. Habit 14. Evolve without announcing. This one cuts through our entire modern age. Everyone wants to post their progress, everyone wants applause for trying, but the powerful don't share the process. They reveal the result. One day you show up different, sharper, less available, more silent, more surgical. People notice the change, but they don't know when it started. That's the trick. The moment people see your transformation, they start preparing for it. But if they only feel it once it's already arrived, it's too late to catch up. You don't give people time to adjust. You become something they no longer understand, and that's when they stop challenging you. The version of you they trained for is no longer in the room, and you never told them the update was coming. Habit 15. Make power your default operating system. At this point, you're not just adopting techniques, you're turning behavior into identity. Every ritual becomes a gear in a machine that runs whether you feel like it or not. You don't need reminders, you've built reflexes. Your stillness in tension is automatic. Your default expression is unreadable. Your silence lands harder than most people shouting. That's not an act, it's the result of repetition. Machiavelli warned that by the time war comes, it's too late to prepare. So your training happens when no one's watching. Morning rituals, emotional drills, default statements you practice in your head. That's not acceptable. We're done here. Silence. A look. The message always arrives, without the noise. You also create pressure daily. Small confrontations. Refusing to explain yourself. Saying no without a smile. These aren't just challenges, they're reps. Like training a muscle group the world doesn't see. You feel the discomfort and you stay still. That's where the power grows. And over time, your nervous system stops flinching. Because this isn't about pretending to be powerful anymore. It's about building a body that is. Habit 16. Become your own intelligence agency. Every powerful figure Machiavelli studied had one thing in common: obsessive observation. Not just of others, of self. That means each night you replay the day like surveillance footage. Where did I let someone steer the frame? Where did I shrink? Who pulled emotion from me? I didn't mean to give. Did I over-explain? Did I allow familiarity where mystery should have lived? This isn't about guilt, it's about feedback. The weak avoid mirrors. The powerful install cameras, and they study everything. Weekly, you name your patterns. Monthly, you audit your circle. Who supports your edge, who softens it, and most critically, you track your own legend. What are people saying when you're not in the room? Are the whispers still aligned with the image, if not correct the behavior? You don't need to control the rumor mill, you just need to ensure it echoes the right myth. Habit 17. Architect your environment, reflect your command. You've changed internally, but if your environment stays soft, you'll eventually soften to match it. Machiavelli wouldn't tolerate that. He'd say, if you've sharpened your mind, don't live among fools. So now you build your physical and social spaces with the same intensity. Remove clutter, not just for cleanliness, but because it sharpens your decision-making. Add symbols of control, a silent, sacred workspace, a corner with nothing but a journal and dim lighting, a place others feel unqualified to sit. You're not decorating, you're signaling. You're designing a throne room. Next, review your calendar. Who gets time with you? Who drains your attention? The powerful don't give time. They license it. Every interaction must be filtered through one question. Does this reinforce who I've decided to become? If not, it's denied, or delayed, or delegated. And your schedule begins to transform. You're not busy, you're intentional. You don't need more hours, you need fewer leaks. Habit 18. Reset your power daily. This is where most slip. They think presence is permanent. It's not. Machiavelli's final lesson was, brutal in its truth, power is rented, not owned. And rent is due every day, so you rise in the morning and reassert your stance. You rehearse your default, you check your frame, you don't rely on yesterday's tension, you regenerate it. Every day you ask yourself, what would the most dangerous version of me do today? And then you do it. Not for applause, not for fear, but because anything less would be betrayal of yourself. By now, you don't try to act powerful. You don't adjust to your environment. You shape it. You don't explain your standards. You let them be felt. You don't hint at consequences. You let one memory do the talking. And in every room you enter, without even realizing it, people stand differently. Breathe differently. Speak more carefully. Not because you demanded it, but because your silence commands it. This is where it shifts from effort to inevitability, from performance to embodiment. You no longer carry your power like a tool, it radiates from you like a frequency. And the signal you emit is clear. I don't chase, I choose. I don't react, I recalibrate. I don't demand control, I'm the reason the room feels like it's under control. Machiavelli would call this embodied dominance. It means that by the time you speak, your presence has already spoken. That long before you're asked for input, your silence has told people how seriously to take you. And the moment you raise an eyebrow, people recalibrate their own behavior, like their survival depends on it, because energetically, it kind of does. So let's break this final phase down to its purest core. Presence. Access. Precision. First, your presence. This is the visible edge. It's not about towering over others physically, it's about entering a space with stillness so dense that people feel it. Your posture is upright but not rigid. Shoulders back, chin neutral. Not aggressive, not meek. Just steady. Movement is slow and minimal, not robotic but deliberate. You aren't scanning the room with your eyes. You're reading it. One glance held long enough to make someone question what you see in them. That's the art. Not intimidation, but analysis. You study the room like someone deciding where to build a fortress. Your face remains still. Not lifeless, just unreadable. No excess smiling. No nervous nodding. Machiavelli said a prince must appear strong even when he is not, because image is leverage. And once people perceive you as soft, the negotiations are over before they begin. Your default expression becomes your armor. Calm, disengaged, unshakable. You train this in quiet moments, in traffic, at the grocery store. You let your resting face become your message. I don't explain myself. I don't audition for comfort. I move on instinct and strategy, not insecurity. Now, access. Most people leak power through over-availability. They're always reachable, always accommodating. The powerful invert that. They become rare, not invisible but selective. You show up less often but more decisively. When people see you, it's significant. When you speak, it's memorable. When you contribute, it's strategic. And that scarcity creates demand. People start adjusting their calendars to yours. They pause before texting. They hesitate before calling. And when they finally get your attention, they treat it like borrowed gold. That's when you know you've shifted, when your absence weighs more than your presence used to. To maintain this, you keep tight control over access. Every invitation is evaluated. Every favor requested is taxed. This doesn't make you cold, it makes you consequential. You become the person people prep for. They rehearse before they speak to you. They think twice before wasting your time. Because even if you never say it directly, your entire energy tells them if you waste this moment, there won't be another. Next, precision. The powerful don't just move less, they move cleaner. They don't waste effort, attention, or language. When they speak, it's like pulling a trigger. Every word is loaded, and people feel it. You've probably experienced this before. Someone says one sentence and it echoes for days. That's not talent. That's calculated restraint. It's speaking only when the moment is right, and saying only what creates motion. So you train this. You speak less during conflict. You let silence create pressure. You learn to end sentences without qualifiers. That's not acceptable. Period. I'll let you know. Period. We're done here. Period. And if you say nothing at all, even better. The longer you can hold silence, the more others reveal themselves. The more you leave them wondering what you're thinking, the more they try to guess, and guessing is a form of submission. You're not just talking. You're shaping the frame through absence. Now on to handling threats Machiavelli style. Most people punish loudly. They shout, they rage, they overreact. But the powerful, they make the damage look like it came from somewhere else. A gate quietly closes. An opportunity quietly disappears. A social connection is severed with no announcement. The person only realizes they're out after the door has already locked. That's what power looks like when refined. No drama, just consequence. Silent, clean, unforgettable. This also creates legend. Eventually, people stop testing you, not because you yelled, but because someone else did, and they remember what happened to them, and they talk, they warn others for you. You don't just punish, you reprogram the environment. The room learns to self-correct in your presence. This brings us to the crown jewel, your personal myth. This isn't branding. This isn't building your image. This is letting your behavior write a story that people can't stop retelling. The most powerful people in history weren't just feared, they were mythologized. Not always for what they did, but for what people believed they might do. That's your final layer. So you become hard to define. You don't overshare. You don't clarify every action. You let people guess. And the gaps between your visible actions become the breeding ground for legend. Someone asks, "Do you know them?" And the response isn't a resume, it's a whisper. He doesn't talk much, but when he does, everyone listens. She doesn't say no. She just disappears. I don't know how he got in that room, but once he did, everything changed. That's the story being told about you, and you didn't have to script a single word of it. You haunt rooms long after you've left. Your presence lingers like a signal the space still remembers, and that's the quiet magic Machiavelli was pointing to all along. You don't have to say you're powerful. You just have to live in a way that others feel smaller in your absence than they ever did in your shadow. Now, architect your world to match the signal, because if your environment doesn't reinforce the habits, you will relapse and the world will notice. Start with your space. Eliminate clutter. Not because it's trendy, but because clarity outside creates clarity inside. Curate everything you see each day. A desk with nothing but your tools, a corner designed for solitude, a room no one else enters without invitation. You're not just living, you're building a command center. Then upgrade your circle. Not everyone around you can come with you. You need fewer people, but sharper ones. Allies who challenge your mind without poking your boundaries. Colleagues who execute without complaint. Friends who understand the silence when you need it. You audit the room. You remove noise, and you reinforce the few who truly understand what you're building, even if they never get to see the whole blueprint. Finally, ritualize intensity. You block 2 to 3 hours each day where you are untouchable. No calls, no distractions, just focus. The kind of deep focus that builds futures. This is your throne room time. Sacred, protected, and over weeks, months, years, it becomes a fortress no one can break. Because while others burn out trying to be on all the time, you become impenetrable by being precise in when and how you engage. That's how power sustains. Not with a bang, but with unwavering rhythm. Now comes the closing principle. The truth Machiavelli hinted at, but never said outright: power is perishable. It decays the moment you stop feeding it. No matter how sharp your posture, how calibrated your silence, how engineered your presence, it all fades if you let it go stale. That's why the truly powerful don't coast. They don't arrive. They reset daily. The rituals are not motivational tools, they are survival systems. Without them, you'll start slipping into softness, back into the comfort of being liked instead of being respected. So each morning you rise and recommit. Before the world starts talking at you, you speak silently to yourself. I hold the frame. I guard the threshold. I train like war is coming, because it is, not in the form of soldiers or swords, but in whispers, tests, tension, and time. And time is the most subtle assassin. It will wear away at your edge unless you renew it on purpose. That's why presence isn't something you earn once. It's something you install again and again until it becomes part of your nervous system. And here's the final shift stop, thinking of yourself as a person trying to be powerful. Start thinking of yourself as an environment. You are no longer an individual reacting to the world. You are the weather. People enter your space and they adjust. They lower their voice. They rethink their tone. They watch your eyes to check if the frame is still intact, because they feel that it is. Your presence tells them play carefully, move correctly, or don't move at all. This is the phase of power that most people never reach, not because it's complex, but because it requires total identity alignment. You no longer rely on adrenaline or anger to enforce your standards. You rely on calibration. You've built systems that keep you sharp without needing emotion. You're consistent but never predictable, precise but never robotic, calm but never weak. Your power doesn't shout anymore. It hums, quiet, constant, like an engine that never cuts off. This is also the point where others begin to orbit around you. Some will try to decode you. Some will try to get closer. Some will try to tear you down to make sense of their own smallness. But none of that changes your movement. Because you don't move for applause. You don't pivot to chase validation. You stay in motion for one reason, only because anything less would be a betrayal of the person you've trained yourself to become. Let's not forget Machiavelli's final warning. The one that separates those who tasted power from those who kept it power is not about becoming dangerous. It's about becoming needed. The moment you become irreplaceable in strategy, in execution, in presence, the game changes. People start to plan around you, and if you disappear, they don't move on. They pause, they scramble. Because you didn't just offer something useful, you became a structural part of the environment. That is power's most permanent form. And here's the paradox: to become needed, you must also be willing to walk away. That's the tension. You're not holding on to relationships, roles, or recognition. You're always prepared to leave the table if the terms shift. That's why people hold on tighter. Because you never have to threaten departure. They feel it. They sense it in your calm, your discipline, your quiet readiness. You don't punish with tantrums. You punish with absence. You don't lecture them on what they lost. You just leave a vacuum they can't fill. This is the myth you now live inside. You're not just a man. You're a standard. You're not just a leader. You're a system. And that's why people respect you, not because of what you say, but because of how it feels to be around you. Your silence has memory. Your absence has weight. Your name has edges. And when people whisper about you behind closed doors, they speak in caution, not because you scared them, but because you trained them, with consistency, with consequence, with mystery. And here's the most dangerous part of all, you did it quietly. You didn't perform your growth. You didn't ask for celebration. You moved like winter, without warning, without apology. And now the world is adjusting to a version of you they never saw coming. That's why they hesitate. That's why they obey. That's why they listen when you speak or pause when you don't. So from here on, you no longer chase power. You transmit it. You no longer explain your decisions. You embody them. You no longer wonder if you belong in the room. You build the room. And if they can't feel your presence, then you were never really there. Now breathe. Still your shoulders. Drop the tension in your face. Let your eyes go soft again just for a moment. Because here's the last thing Machiavelli would say if he could whisper it to you right now. Power isn't about being loud. It's about being unavoidable. So go be that. A presence they can't escape. A decision they can't override. A myth they can't erase. End of script. Have a beautiful day.